the paper one with the Khoisan, they talk about how it could
Hmm.
be helpful for creating all alternate states of
Hmm.
consciousness,
Hmm.
because it's a I don't know it stays at about 40 hertz, and so
Yeah.
they make some argument about brainwave stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm more interested in the last common
Okay.
ancestor,
And
culturally speaking.
so when you look at all this evidence, you look at all these creation myths, and all of this sort of anthropological, cultural stuff. How far back does that last common ancestor go? What is the date that you come to when you look at when the inferred origin of this may have been?
Yeah, so another reason I love the bull roar is that it's an artifact. So myths, like you can't myths don't
It's
leave
hard to date that.
material.
Yeah.
But there's bull roars that we can date back to 20,000 years ago in Ukraine. So that's
Hmm.
that's the oldest one that's not really controversial. And so I think so my model for what happened is that essentially symbolic thought is emerging, and especially among women, I is emerging or forming in a more cohesive state,
Hmm.
and that women made rituals where there were altered states of reality or consciousness, um, and then somebody gets bit by a snake, and then it's like, hey, that is pretty similar to the song and dance we were doing, also produced that effect, and then so you can imagine working
Mm,
in snake bites into the ritual to give it a little bit more punch.
I
And
see.
so the
It's almost like how, there's certain states of consciousness you can get to by taking acid or psilocybin,
Yes.
or through fasting and food deprivation, through chanting and drumming. Like, people often report that you can get to similar states by different routes.
Yep. Yeah. So I think they found the snake
They
venom
found a
route.
catalyst.
And so there was some sort of cult centered around Venus statues. So
Mhm.
there's
What
fairly
are
good
those?
evidence
Explain
for
explain
that.
what those are for people.
So the right in the beginning of behavioral modernity, starting from about 40,000 years ago in Europe, there are these beautiful figurines of women. Um, and that there are actually there are almost no depictions of men
Hmm.
until like 15,000 years ago. It's all women, and there are hundreds of them distributed throughout from Spain to Siberia,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
they
again, all
persist.
over the world, similar cultural
Not all over the
artifact.
world, so
Yeah.
just from Spain to Siberia. So
Mhm.
that it's among the Gravettian
Okay.
culture, or it actually starts in the Aurignacian, but
Yeah.
40,000 years ago. And so I think that there's just these memes stewing, and that
Yeah.
the earliest evidence of that in relation to snake worship would be about 24,000 years ago. There's the Malta Beret culture, and that's in Siberia. And so there's a burials with mini Venus figurines, but there's carved on mammoth tusk. There's three snakes that look like cobras.